He was a radical Muslim. He killed thousands of people. He spent the last years of his life in hiding from the American government. He was Osama bin Laden. It was on March 10th, 1957, in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia, that Osama bin Laden was born. He was the 17th child of his 50 siblings. Bin Laden was born into a rich family, his father a successful billionaire. Across the world, Neda Bakos was growing up in rural Montana. As a child in a small town, she never could have predicted that one day her path would intertwine with one of the world's most notorious terrorists. Bakos grew up learning to value everything you had, including education. Bakos' high school graduating class consisted of a mere 9 students, most of whom left Montana to pursue their dreams.
I was very influenced by my peers, and I was lucky enough to have friends who were very interested in the world outside of our small town and the world outside of Montana and the United States.
So as Bakos began to rise as an ambitious and explorative graduate, bin Laden was in the middle of the Afghanistan war against the Soviet Union. Afghanistan had been invaded as the Soviet Union attempted to expand through the majority of the Eastern Hemisphere. The war started in 1979 and lasted for 10 years. Bin Laden worked as a financial consultant for the Afghanistan army and spent lots of time organizing troops and inspiring thousands of others to join as well. Bin Laden was also a member of a small group of ferocious rebel fighters called the Mujahideen, who were supplied by the U.S. From all the assistance of other countries and thanks to its fierce fighters, Afghanistan was able to drive the Soviet Union out of their country. It was later on, during his second battle, the Gulf War, that Osama bin Laden's infamous hatred against America sprouted. During the Gulf War, the U.S. had used Saudi Arabia as a base. Bin Laden saw this as an invasion of his holy Muslim land, because the Americans were of a different religion than the country they were working to defend. Rather than accepting the assistance of the U.S., bin Laden and other former members of the Mujahideen unleashed their anger towards American soldiers by speaking to Saudi Arabians about the religious offenses committed by the United States Army. After bin Laden continued to verbally attack the U.S., Saudi Arabia began to worry that this could negatively impact their alliance with America. Saudi Arabia then banished Osama bin Laden from the country and revoked his citizenship, upon which time he fled to Sudan. However, Sudan's alliances were also threatened by bin Laden's impactful messages. And so, under pressure from the United States and Saudi Arabia, Sudan also evicted bin Laden from their country. Osama bin Laden found refuge in Afghanistan, hiding in Jalalabad and plotting to take down America for what they did to him and his home country. As bin Laden stayed silent hiding in the mountains, Neda Bakos' career was blooming. Bakos moved from the rolling greens of Montana to Langley, Virginia, after being offered a job at CIA headquarters.
I wanted to work for the CIA initially because I really just wanted to work overseas, and there weren't a lot of private sector opportunities at the time.
Bakos' first job in the CIA was working as an internal consultant in regards to organizational management. This reopened her interest in using her economy degree, so she applied for and landed a job as a CIA analyst. As an analyst, Bakos had to uncover and present information concerning individuals the United States government deemed to be a threat to America. The smallest pieces of information could lead to important discoveries. Bakos eventually rose to become a CIA targeting officer. As a targeter, Bakos and her fellow operatives were charged with using the data provided from analysts to track down members of bin Laden's inner circle as his anger towards America became threatening. A targeter's job was not done until their person of interest was either dead or captured. This process could take years. As Bakos rose up through the ranks of the CIA, bin Laden was gaining large numbers of followers. He developed the radical Sunni group known as Al-Qaeda, which translates to the base from Arabic. Al-Qaeda had many former members of the Mujahideen and was devoted to spreading radical Muslim beliefs across the Middle East, proselytizing with severe force. While bin Laden was head of Al-Qaeda, he had many powerful deputies, including Abu Musab al-Zarqawi, who was known for publicly beheading hostages and bombing innocent Muslims. With a new army at his command, bin Laden was able to orchestrate the attacks of 9/11. Before doing so, he posted video broadcasts explaining his plan to attack America. To infiltrate the United States, bin Laden sent members of Al-Qaeda to America to take over planes and crash them into significant American landmarks. 3 planes were successfully overtaken by Al-Qaeda soldiers. 2 crashed into the Twin Towers in New York, and 1 flew into the Pentagon in D.C. Many American citizens and members of the government blamed the CIA for not alerting the country to possible danger prior to the attack. However, the CIA had spoken up about the threats and informed the president. The lack of information about the attack was what prevented anyone from stopping it. Bakos, who had been working at the CIA for a year since the 9/11 attacks, explained the complications of the situation.
Prior to 9/11, there were analysts writing presidential daily briefs that were delivered to the president and to Congress on the threat that al-Qaeda posed. What they didn't have was a time and place. So it's very difficult for a policymaker to act on information that they can't definitively define the threat.
After 9/11, Osama bin Laden became the CIA's #1 priority, and each group of targeting officers was assigned an al-Qaeda member very close to bin Laden to target. This way, CIA spies could track these members to see if they were led to bin Laden. Some captured al-Qaeda leaders were interrogated for crucial information and held in prisons. The benefits of interrogation included a better understanding of how the mind of a major terrorist functions, as well as data related to key al-Qaeda members. Bakos had no personal experience with the extreme interrogation methods, but explained the impact they had.
I would say there was a big disconnect between expectations of the CIA's interrogation program and how it actually played out. Because, as we all now know, there was so many flaws within that program. And initially, it was set up strictly as an immediate reaction to 9/11 and was never meant to be this long-term sustainable program. And it went on far, far, far too long.
At the CIA, Bakos was promoted to head targeting officer for CIA operative team. She was now working to find Abu Musab al-Zarqawi. She led all of her fellow officers, taking long hours each day to piece together hundreds of pieces of information, making deductions about Zarqawi's location. She would hang pictures of individuals and places connected to Zarqawi on the wall of her office, stringing together those who were connected and adding notes on the paths. She made a 6-foot map of Zarqawi's connections that never stopped growing. The work Neda did in the CIA was some of the hardest the American intelligence agency had ever faced. She had to lead a team of officers who had never tried to target a man more unpredictable than Zarqawi. He was indiscriminate in his killings. Zarqawi would eliminate Muslims and Americans alike, working on his own agenda. Bin Laden disapproved of these random killings that Zarqawi would occasionally conduct simply out of pleasure, for it negatively impacted al-Qaeda's reputation. Atiya Abda al-Rahman, a key player in al-Qaeda's inner workings, warned Zarqawi to stop unnecessary killings and follow bin Laden's instructions. After 2 years of painstaking work relying on the smallest of information to track down Zarqawi, Bakos and her team were able to pinpoint Zarqawi's location. Bakos tried to express that it was the perfect opportunity to kill Zarqawi, at a time when he wasn't aware that the CIA was tracking him. Unfortunately, the US government disapproved of this plan because they feared it would cause governmental turmoil with Europe. The plan wasn't executed, and Zarqawi left the area. A few months later, Neda and her team located Zarqawi in Iraq, upon which time the United States decided to conduct an air raid on his safe house. On June 7, 2006, Abu Musab al-Zarqawi was killed after 2 years of dedicated work from Bakos and her team of targeting officers. Fear was invoked in many al-Qaeda leaders. 5 years after the death of Zarqawi, an attack was planned on bin Laden's compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. On May 2, 2011, SEAL Team 6 was sent in by night to raid the home filled with bin Laden's wives and children. It had taken years of planning and preparing for the raid. During the invasion, one SEAL successfully shot bin Laden, killing him instantly. Osama bin Laden was dead. Al-Qaeda was in shambles, unable to regroup for years. Today, bin Laden's son Hamza has taken on his father's role as the face of al-Qaeda. However, it is not the same organization that it once was. By taking a stand against Zarqawi and bin Laden, Bakos was preventing deaths on home soil from any future attacks, but was also stopping Zarqawi from bombing innocent civilians overseas. Her work was invaluable in the fight against al-Qaeda leaders. Not only did Bakos remove bin Laden's powerful deputy, but she had also targeted many other al-Qaeda leaders in her earlier CIA years. The fighters who can have the biggest impact on the entire world are sometimes those who work without acknowledgement, who devote their lives to ensuring the safety of our nation. Neda Bakos took a stand every day in the CIA by risking her life to target the world's most dangerous al-Qaeda terrorists. Her bravery and determination were a priceless asset to America.